Hello, everyone, and welcome to another live podcast. My name is Lucy Challenger. I'm the CEO of Polo and Tweed, and welcome to the Voice of Luxury, where I am joined today by the fabulous James Hennon-Weber. James, hello. Thank you so much for coming to meet me.
Hey, nice to meet you. No, really happy to chat.
Fantastic. Well, James and I met on the most beautiful island in the world, Antigua. I think I was rather inebriated, drinking far too much rosé, and I met James and his wonderful husband and his beautiful 3 boys on the most idyllic setting. And, you know, James and I started chatting. I found out about him and his life, and really sort of his passions for life, for his platform for education became very clear to my mind. So I'm delighted, James, that you could join me today. So I thought for those listening in and tuning into this conversation, you could explain a little bit, James, about your background, perhaps a bit about your career and your family and where you've come to now.
Okay, cool. So initially I went to a London drama school, and I trained to become an actor. As all actors, I had a part-time job, which was property and estate agency. And being somebody that was really keen to have some of the material things in life, I wanted to travel, I wanted to, you know, set myself a nice life path. I decided to take a step away from acting. I felt like I went into it too young. I had lots to experience, and I fell into property. I carried on with estate agency, and I did estate agency and property development. I do believe my acting career or my acting training kind of supported my career of everything that I did. I then am a gay guy. I wanted to get married and have kids. And I don't think this is the right thing to say, but I wanted to live a very normal life in the sense that I just wanted the very standard things with everyone else: nice house, family life, all of that. And so in my late 20s, having met Owen, we'd been together about 3 years, and we decided we wanted to have children. We looked down 2 routes: adoption and surrogacy, and we both felt that with all the children in the world that needed homes, we really wanted to go down the adoption route. And here we are today, with 3 gorgeous kids, all adopted, living our best life.
Amazing. And you know, it's really interesting, I think, that word, you know, normal, that you used a moment ago. I think we're constantly faced by stereotype in the media. You know, my husband is Caribbean descent. He was born in England. His mum is white, his dad is black, and he sees on the media constantly, you know, the black stereotype, the reiteration that this person is a certain type of person. And I mean, you must experience that with your husband, with people putting you into a specific box.
Yeah.
Is that something that you must have experienced through your life?
Absolutely. And I guess that's where I advocated for same-sex couples and adoption. I wanted to educate the world on the fact that we are not the stereotype that everyone sees on television, on films. I set up my Instagram account called Dads of London purely for the fact that I wanted people out there to see, and it's wrong to say normal because we should be all kinds of people, but I wanted people to see a gay family living their life that probably isn't too dissimilar to the neighbours next door. And also adopted kids, because actually, you know, not just gay people, adopted children, adopted kids do tend to be stereotyped as well and put in boxes. And so I really wanted to kind of put out their reality that it's not everything that you hear and see, and far from it in most cases.
Absolutely. So did you adopt your children through the UK adoption system, or did you go?
Yeah. So there's 2 systems. There's going through agency via the UK or going through local authority. Some people do go overseas because they just want to adopt perhaps easier. I think you can adopt via Russia, Asia and Africa a little bit more quickly. Having said that, the natural UK way by the local authority, which is the way I would recommend, is just as quick. And you're really taking on children within your own home, within your own country. And you have a lot of support via the UK system.
Okay. So how long did it take approximately, and obviously this must vary from family to family who go through adoption process, but from the point that you started that process with the amazing boys you have now, what was that sort of journey like? How long did it take, and what did you experience?
So it has changed a lot. And when me and Owen first started the process, we were very new adopters. The David Cameron government at that point had pushed for LGBT adopters. I don't want to say the wrong thing, but I don't think it was so easy for us to adopt prior to that. I'm not sure if you're aware, but they legalized gay marriage. You were then able to, we were now able to have civil unions. And at that point we changed that over to marriage. And then it became, the government really pushed for same-sex adopters. And David Cameron really advocated for that. I believe his parents had been foster carers themselves, which is quite rare because that was a conservative government. And we all know about Margaret Thatcher's era over LGBT community with the AIDS crisis.
Yeah.
But I really have to stress that it was his government that helped the LGBT, community the most. But then people would probably argue with me in the sense that it was just the time. So anyway, we saw lots of advertising going on. Me and Owen had decided, right, we wanted to do it. Owen was more for adoption than me, well, for having kids before than me. We were on holiday, and I always remember we were sat in Mykonos, and that is so stereotypical. But anyway, we were sat on holiday, and I remember looking out into the sea and watching a family on a yacht. It sounds wonderful, but anyway, the point was that I watched a mum and dad, and I think they had 2 kids, and I was just sitting there watching them jumping in and out of the water, having, a fruit salad, for example. And at that point, it just made me think, oh my God, I want that. And for a gay man, that's something that we never thought we could have.
Yeah.
And so that was a moment, that was a aha moment, as Oprah likes to say, for me. And I went to Owen, I said, oh my God, let's do it, let's adopt. And there and then we ordered some fizz, and I called up the local authority. There was a line to call up, and it was an adoption line. And I believe all of them still have that today. So if anyone's interested, you literally just Google your local authority, type in adoption, they will have a line. I called it up and I said, we're really interested in adoption. What do we have to do? We arrived home the following week. 2 days later, we went for the initial open evening, which still happens. They do their utmost to turn you off adoption. They give you the worst case scenarios, and many families do walk away.
Okay.
Because it's pretty scary stuff to sit in a meeting like that and kind of be thrown into some of the situations that you're about to be faced with. And they do that with a good reason. They do that because they want to sieve out the people that don't know what they're about to get themselves into. We didn't. We were like, oh my God, this is so exciting. We were so excited. And from that day to 6 months later, Reese came home. That was my eldest son.
Wow.
And it took us 6 months. Having said that, it took us that time because we were not looking for a baby. Okay. We didn't want a newborn. We were very interested in 2 to 4 years old. And that wasn't so popular. And most people that are adopting tend to want babies because there really is this stigma that the younger you get them, the easier it is for them to become like you and to be your child. Okay. So, having said that, we were a couple that were going for an age bracket that were many kids. There was quite a few kids around at that point. And we had a lot of, we had more choices. However, saying all of that, we didn't actually ever get a choice. During our process, the social workers, what they tend to do, the good ones, is they are analysing you and observing you the whole time. And while you are here as a parent, there is a child here that's needing adoption, and they're working together, matching you. And that's how it works. And so on the first time round, it took 6 months. And on the second time round, it took over a year, because that was a different situation. So it took much longer.
Okay, that's interesting. And do you find, going back to saying about that stigma that a lot of people want the baby, what is, you mentioned that they think that they can sort of mold the baby earlier on. Do you find that's the same through same-sex families, and
straight couples are the ones that
they all want the baby? Does that sort of stigma go across the board?
Particularly straight couples.
Okay.
And I understand completely why that is the case. Most cases, you have women that were infertile, and some of them have had to go through the IVF route. Okay. So they really have a longing for the baby. And I get that. I absolutely get that. Whereas you'll find for same-sex couples, and maybe more to men, we haven't got the same longing for a newborn. So we are more, open to older children. I would say for me, it kind of scared me to have a newborn or a very young baby, because quite frankly, I didn't feel like I was ready. Yeah. Whereas a walking, talking child, I felt I could cope with. The reality is, it was a hell of a lot easier with a younger baby than it is having a child come a terrible two. Can you imagine? Yeah. Because naturally, the whole world, the way life exists, you are prepared for a baby. The way it actually works, the human body, the human being, they can cope with a baby. You get respite when they sleep, although you don't necessarily get it when they're awake. You're not faced with, a 2-year-old or an inquisitive 3-year-old that wants to do very different things. So that was the case. You'd often find that women, in most cases, were very keen. But yeah, the reality is, the people believe that the younger you get them, the less abuse they've had. And again, that's not necessarily the case at all.
Sure. So you got your first child when he was 2 years. 2 years.
He was nearly 3. Nearly 3. Yeah.
And then a year later, you got another child, and
no. We adopted 2 to 3 years later.
Oh, 2 to 3 years later. Okay. So
yeah, our second child.
Go through the process again. Was it that you always knew you wanted more than one, or it just sort of naturally over time you loved it so much you thought, right?
Yeah. Okay. Yes, we always wanted a big family. We always had the dream of a big family. So my eldest son was a sibling group. He was actually separated from 2 other siblings. And he needed some time on his own anyway. We always wanted him to have a sibling. Again, another sibling, because he already has his birth siblings. And we have a good relationship. We're in contact with them regularly. They have been adopted as well. We decided that we wanted to adopt the second time round. And when we went the second time round, there were so many children. Again, and it's tough hearing this, but most people don't want the damaged children. They don't want the children that might have a bad profile. And we saw so many kids that people were just, putting to the side, because at the end of the day, everyone wants the perfect child, don't they? We wanted to go the second time round and adopt a child that might not necessarily find a home. And so we took on a child with special needs, and my middle son has got global delays. Okay. And to do that process, it did take longer. We also went to an adoption party, which is where there's lots of children that are not finding it difficult to find families, that they make it, they set up a party in a town hall, and the children think they're just going to a normal party, and they tell the prospective adopters to come fancy dress and have fun, and the foster carers run stalls, and the kids are all going to a party. They don't know what's going on. Yeah. Initially, we went to this party. We fell in love with a little black girl, and we faced racism from a black foster carer that didn't want two gays and a white gay family to adopt this black girl. She was 6 years old at the time. And what we were told when we went to this party was, you must go, you must relax, and don't worry about it. But if you feel a connection, if at any point you feel something, go with it. When we got to this party, there were different floors. There was about 2 floors. The younger children were all on the ground floor, and some of the older children were on the top floor. Again, no lie, as we walked in, everyone stormed the ground floor. So I said to Owen, let's not be those people. Let's just go upstairs and just chill, because it was quite nerve-wracking, actually. So we both walked around, and we had fun. You know, we played with the kids. We just saw what they were all doing, which is what you're meant to do. And we went to this area where it was a shop, and this gorgeous black girl, I forget her name, we just built a relationship with her. We had fun. She had real zest and was, you know, what do you want? Have you got the money for this? It was real fun. And we ended up having a lovely relationship with her. The foster carer, I said to Owen, I felt like the foster carer, there was something going on there. We were kind of shooed along. So we then went to the next, and we went and saw a few. We then, at the end of it, they said, if there's anyone you connected with, kind of go back, have another chat. We did. We got on really well. She really liked Owen and me. And we remember going down, and then when you leave, you let them know. Who did you have a connection with? And the woman running the party said, oh, I saw you with, she mentioned you guys when you left, and we were so excited. And actually, being what we were, we didn't ever go in looking to adopt an older and that old. We were hoping to adopt more at 4 years old, but we went away and thought, you know what? Wow, we're just going to go with this. It felt right. Yeah. We started the process. We went down the route, and then we got approached to meet. And the foster carer and the black social worker was awful when they came to our home. Said that they didn't feel that we could advocate for a girl. So they didn't feel that our heritage was right. They ruined her life. Well, they didn't ruin her life, but she's still in the care system.
Oh no, that's so sad.
And we were really turned off that situation. Our social worker at the time was very embarrassed about how it went. So, you know, we even faced it in the adoption services, because at the end of the day, we only did what we went with our heart. And in all fairness, I absolutely agree with adoption. They do try to match heritage, but you don't have many Asian or black adopters. You just don't have them. You have a lot more Caucasian adopters out there. That's the absolute truth. And there's a lot of Asian children that are, you know, that might not find homes because there's not many Asians that go out looking to adopt, for example, or black families.
And you may not know the answer to that, but is that common across the whole world with how they approach adoption, or is it just specifically our country that sort of say you have to have the exact culture, you know, skin color match to make it work?
So in the US is probably the most like us, where they do promote it, and I absolutely get that they try to keep the heritage going. And to be honest, if I was of the same, if one of us had been black and of that heritage, yeah, we would probably follow very similar religions and foods. And so I get that. I am from a Spanish background. All my children are of an English Irish heritage, more like my husband. And I are now, you know, they understand Spanish food. They understand Spanish life because they're with a Spanish dad as well.
Yeah.
So I totally get why they would do that. But I also don't feel that you necessarily need that. or that should prevent adopters. But unfortunately, yes, they absolutely like to stick. If they can, they will promote heritage because they want those children to grow up. I remember what one of the comments was, how do you feel she's going to cope not only being black, but having 2 gay dads? I remember that was one of the statements. And I said, hopefully the love that she has will be enough.
Yeah.
And he said, no, I don't think it will.
Wow.
Because she's going to face being black and having 2 gay dads. And I just remember, and maybe that is the world we live in. You know, maybe if I was to speak to somebody that is a black woman and I asked her that question, maybe she would say that would be tough. I don't know. I can't answer that question.
Yeah, that must have been really, really difficult for you both, having had a sort of, I guess, a reasonably straightforward experience to begin with
First time, yeah.
And then to be faced with, well, abject prejudice and really deeply emotionally disturbing.
Yeah, that was hard because we almost gave up a second time around, and we were kind of going to go, do you know what, let's just go, because we were such strong advocates the first time. We couldn't have promoted it enough. We had such a wonderful experience. Yeah. Second time round, we went through the very typical London experience, which many adopters face, where you're thrown so many social workers because unfortunately it is a tough job and they don't last. And so you're constantly, we had about 3 social workers through that time.
Wow, my God.
Yeah, it's hard. It's a hard job.
My gosh. So
yeah,
it
worked out.
Your beautiful second one came along, and you managed to you mentioned he has sort of learning difficulties or
he got global delays. Yeah, he suffered quite severe abuse. He came home at 4.5 maybe, and he had suffered quite severe abuse, which affected his mental ability. And having said that, he's thriving now. He's doing so well. But when we first met Leo, that was a shock to the system. For us, we'd been a bit naive to what we were taking on, but we went with it. And every day he amazes us. And he's a great kid. And but yeah, he's got global delays. And if there's anyone that that's got a lot to deal with as they grow older, it's Leo, because people don't understand a disability that isn't necessarily visible. And Leo has a hidden disability at his age where you wouldn't necessarily know he's delayed, although it's becoming more apparent as he's getting older, because obviously he's immature for his age. But yeah, he's a great kid. But he's got global delays because of his past. But we have we've overcome so much of what the professionals have said, because we haven't listened to everything, and we've kind of pushed him. We've continually pushed him. We didn't want him to go to special school. We continually pushed him in a normal, well, not a normal school, but the standard school, to keep pushing him and not making him feel different, if that makes sense. Yeah, and that really helped.
Were you given much support from the adoption agency and sort of system itself, or was it very much sort of you guys having to figure it out and obviously love him unconditionally and give him that strength to persevere? Were you given much support?
No. So we weren't given much support at all, but you've got to understand, and I want to stress this because there might be a lot of adopters out there or people that might be watching this that are looking to adopt. We failed to do perhaps what we should have done. And when we adopted our children, we just wanted to get the job done. We didn't follow the path of what we could have done, which was really push for things as adopters. So we could have pushed to get a statement in place for Leo. We could have pushed to have funding if we needed it. We didn't financially feel that we needed it. So we just wanted to get it done and do it ourselves. We just wanted them away. That was where we made a mistake. So we then battled, because we had to start everything again with Leo, because what we did, and we did it with all of our children, is we were so desperate to get the adoption through, because bearing in mind, it's not till they're officially adopted and it's stamped by the court that they're yours.
Okay.
There's always a chance that the birth parents could advocate.
Wow.
not advocate, excuse me, could petition to get the children back and fight for them.
Okay.
In most cases, that doesn't happen, but there is a chance that that could happen. So for me, I was so nervous. I wanted my kids adopted and them to be mine. We then, it wasn't so much that we didn't have support from the adoption services, but the SENCO, the special educational needs in your local borough, were useless. And of course they're useless because they haven't got much money. They can't help you. So it took 4 years for us to get Leo what he needed. And he was a child that had it all on paper in black and white. So if we had that struggle, I can't imagine what struggles people that don't have it, that aren't adopted, would have. And it took us 4 years to get him the statement that he needed because they just didn't want to give it to him.
Wow. Wow.
But we got it in the end, and you do get a lot more support as adopters than you might do as you guys as birth parents, because we can choose the schools they go to. We get first choice. We don't have a waiting list for schools in the state system. Yet we went down the independent system with our children because we felt that was the best start for them. We continued with my eldest. He carried on via the independent system. Leo didn't survive in the independent system. We had to move him to state school. And that was the best place for him because that's where the support came. And then Oliver, I couldn't manage 3 schools. So we kept him in the state system for the early years. And we felt that if he didn't survive, we would go to independent, or if there was a way we could help. And he's been, that was almost my regret as well, because we had great schools where we live in London, and the state system the schooling was great. So, but for my eldest, we continued down the independent route where you get no help or support for adopted kids.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I didn't know the difference between the state and independent and how this different support changed. And so after your second one, how long was it until the third one arrived?
Oliver was different. Oliver was a sibling, a birth sibling. So he was the half sibling to Leo.
Okay.
And we got called to say that birth mum had just had a baby. So you had a choice at that time where we could have fought to do concurrent planning, which is kind of where you can foster to adopt. There's a risk doing that where if you do, the child has more chance, has quite a high probability of going to birth mum.
Okay.
I didn't feel comfortable doing that until it was official that he was going down the adoption path. Mm-hmm. So Oliver went into foster care for about 5 months and then he came home. But it was a very different process because we didn't have to go through the same procedure, because in that time we were kind of family adopting, if that makes sense. And Oliver was that baby that we never, that I thought, oh my God, and it was wonderful. We had a really good experience with a baby of that age because he slept through the night.
Wow.
He ate everything. Yeah, that was so rare. We were very rare. It was very rare that Oliver woke us up. Maybe we'd give him his last feed at 11 o'clock and he would sleep through till 6. Oh, that was our life. So it was
oh my God,
easy.
I'm so jealous. I've only had one, but he did not sleep through the night.
Yeah, no.
Through the night and he's 5.
Yeah, well, I know so many friends that haven't, and even the teething. And actually, we had a friend in the States that introduced us to Oragel. I don't know if you know it, and that was our lifesaver with his teething, because we might have had a week of bad teething, and my friend said, try that. And again, that was it. He was pretty, he was a very easy baby, and he's an easy kid to this day.
Amazing. So when I was growing up, there was a lad that I was really good friends with in my school, and he was adopted, and he always knew he was adopted. His parents had been very honest with him from, I guess, he could cognitively, have that type of conversation.
Yeah.
And although he was aware of who his birth mum was, his parents were his adopted parents. So how have you approached that dynamic?
Exactly the same. So the adoption in the UK would recommend that. Okay. I think as a same-sex family, particularly 2 men, you kind of have no choice. There's going to come a point where they go, who's mum? because every human being has a mother, even in surrogacy. I almost feel that the surrogacy story is a more complex one, where I feel, how do you explain to your child that you had, because in most cases for surrogacy, you have an egg donor that's technically the biological mother, and then you have a carrier who's, I don't know really what you would call that, but there's another mum involved, isn't there, that carries you for 6 months. Sure. So for us, we have always done that. All the stories and the evidence shows that that's the best thing to do. I don't know if you've ever watched Long Lost Families, but that's an adoption story from the past where many women had to give up their children because of wedlock. Okay. And in most cases, in the 1960s, 50s, and 40s, those children were not always told they were adopted. Wow. They just lived and then it was a massive bombshell. So we've never done that. We've always told our children that they've been adopted from day one. We know lots of straight couples that have done exactly the same, and the kids just know it. It's just their norm. They know no different. Yeah, no, that is, it's fascinating, because I know I have always thought if I had more children, I would adopt. I think going back to what you said earlier on about there's so many children in this world that are in unfortunate positions, and if you're in a financial position or a stable, loving family that can give an opportunity to a child that otherwise wouldn't have that, you know, it's an incredible thing that you've done with your husband to have this family. But, you know, moving into sort of modern times in terms of COVID, life changing, us being faced with lockdown, you guys recently emigrated or moved out to Mexico, if I'm correct. So we always had a dream that we wanted to live, we wanted to have a house abroad. That was always our ambition, and we wanted that in Greece, but we decided on Spain, and then we decided on Mallorca, purely because it's much quicker to the UK. The flights are all year round. When COVID happened, I think so many people started to look at what's important in life. We go through life. I did particularly, I don't know if you did, Lucy, but I used to go through life trying to get to the weekend, or trying to get to Friday, or, oh God, I can't wait till the kids go to bed, or, oh, you know, or have a glass of wine. And we never lived in the moment. And me and Owen sat down one day during lockdown, and I was really scared at the first lockdown. I found my anxiety levels were through the roof. I had to stop watching the news. And Owen said, why don't we sell up and go? And I was like, oh my God, you know, and it all sounded really exciting, and it was a bit of a romance at that point. Oh, let's just go and live abroad. So what we decided to do was we would give it a go in COVID, keep the house before we made the final decision in London. And we looked into it, started planning. It was a good time to do this because houses abroad were going to be a lot cheaper to rent, because holiday makers were gone. And also we really wanted to be somewhere that was safer. I don't want to sound cocky here, but we knew that there was going to be another lot. We knew it was going to get worse before it got better. And we thought, let's ride this one out somewhere safer. And that's what we did. And we did the taster. Lots of people were shocked that we did it, because they're like, my God, you're pulling your kids out of school. You're doing this massive life change. But you know what? I can only say, do it, because we've only got one life. If there's something that you really want to do, you've got to do it now. And we do. There's days I regret it. There's days I really miss London, but I don't miss the London that's now. I don't miss the world that we're in. And so with this new world, I'm loving sunshine. My children are still going to school because they're coping with it better here. And I feel really blessed that I took that decision. We've still got London going if we decide to go back. And in this lockdown, we just jumped and we thought, let's give it a go. Let's go for it. And we did. We did it in the summertime, and we don't regret it. That's amazing. I think it's really
important what you talked about with in the first lockdown, and that level of anxiety rising. I mean, I went through exactly the same thing as you. I literally deleted all the news apps off my phone. I still do not particularly look at the news, because it is a melting pot of anxiety and stress and fear, you know, which I think is very, very unhelpful to our current situation. And of course, as you know, we're all, at least in the UK, back in a national lockdown, and I think people have faced such financial difficulties and mental health issues that it really has put that.
Well, that was one of the reasons we moved abroad, was because we had the ability to, with everyone working offline. So it was the right time to give it a go. You're right. I had a neighbour that had accidentally overdosed in London. Quite a well-known neighbour as well, and it's terrible what's happening with mental health. It's very sad, and it scared my kids watching the news.
What do you do as sort of a family? Are there things that you put in place when COVID happened to help you deal with that? I mean, was sort of any daily routines or things that you enjoy doing that about that anxiety?
Absolutely. So my middle son with global delays was very scared that people were dying. He kept hearing people were dying. And of course, we were having conversations and he was hearing it. We didn't even realize he was hearing it. This is why it was the move abroad was good. But then, having said that, not everyone can. So our thing was exercise as a family. We always went out for long walks, and that was so important. Even in lockdown, we tried to play board games. It was very much the old traditions that came back in our home, things that again we didn't feel we had time for before. And we, you know, to be honest, I didn't have time to sit down and play drafts or Monopoly. I was like, oh God, I haven't got time for this. But it was so nice to find the time to do simple things with the kids. I actually found time to sit down and watch a Disney movie with them. And the other thing was, I read actually one of your questions that you sent me. What kind of things did you do to kind of educate them, or to help educate them? And you know what? That education, and I think if there's one education we can all teach the kids in this time, it's just family. And I don't agree with all these schools pushing all these computers. It's family time, and that's all we should be doing right now. We should be having family time wherever possible. And if there gets a point where it's becoming stressful, turn that computer off. And I did it in the first lockdown. I said, no, I'm turning it off. We are not having this today. I cooked with my kids. I taught them how to boil an egg. You know, it was those things. But it really was. It was making a mess and tidying it up.
I love that. I think you're so right. Like, you know, we sort of get fixated in the daily grind. And when people are successful and they have homes to run or estates to run or lots of balls in the air, we become fixated about keeping them up in the air, right? And having to always manage this hamster wheel that we're on. And this lockdown has showed, actually stop, be with your family. Take that, like, boil an egg. I love that. You know, I think Noah would be all over that, although he'd then, you know, he'd probably try and boil all of them every time my back's turned.
Oh God, yeah, that's well, not with the younger ones, but with my eldest one. But it's simple things that I don't think we do anymore, which would have been done in the past because they wouldn't have had phones, they wouldn't have computers. Teaching them how to make a bed. It was silly things, but I think that's what. You know, I remember reading something, and you've probably read the same, going for that coffee. When all this is over, just going for that coffee and sitting in a cinema is going to be the most amazing thing that we're all going to do again. And I guess that's it, isn't it? It's maybe there's been a higher force out there that's helped us do that. There's a reason for this.
Yeah, no, exactly. I'd like to think that the world was allowed to take a breath.
Take a breathe,
everything sort of take a moment. So we're going to move on to something that I'm prepared for. We're going to do a quick fire question round. So I'm going to say 2 words, and don't think about it too much. Just tell me the word.
What comes to my mind?
You can tell me why if you want, or you can just say the word. So up to you. So for example, I might say to you, cats or dogs, and you would say,
I've got 2 dogs.
there we go.
Okay, cool.
Okay, right. Okay, if you're ready, we're gonna go. So,
Okay.
morning or night?
Oh, nighttime. I'm definitely not a morning person.
Cartier or Tiffany?
Oh God, Erin always gets me Tiffany. I'd rather Cartier.
Okay, I win. I hope you're listening. Netflix or party?
Now, party.
Fish or chips?
Chips.
Chocolate or ice cream?
Chocolate.
Brad or Angelina?
Oh God, Brad.
Rain or sun?
Sun.
Sea or swimming pool?
Swimming pool. Oh no. Sea.
Sea.
But I like to go to swimming pool after.
Fast or slow?
Slow.
Chanel or Gucci?
Chanel.
Sweet or savory?
Sweet.
Eggs or bacon?
Bacon.
Britney or Madonna?
Britney.
Gold or silver?
Gold.
Today or tomorrow?
Today.
Thank you.
Oh, that's brilliant. Thank you.
So I know you weren't prepared for that, but that was lovely. I mean, James, this has been such a lovely chat, and I really hope that people listening have it's sort of enhanced their knowledge, even if they're not considering adoption, you know, but just what platforms are out there and what's accessible to allow people to have these conversations and ask questions that they might be scared of. So, you know, before we conclude and say goodbye, because I could speak to you all day.
Yeah.
What do you feel your journey with your own family, your adoption has been? You know, what sort of led you towards it in terms of the outcome? What do you love most about being an adoptive dad and being in this amazing family that you've created?
I think that when I first realized I was gay, I never thought I'd have it. And I think it's the realization that I managed to have what I never thought would be possible. And I have a lot of people send me messages on my Instagram account to say how much hope I give them. And I think that's what it's done for me. I managed to fulfill my dream. And it, you know, and all the best things in life are free, really. It's the family time. And I guess that's the lesson that it's taught me, that how lucky we are. There's so much that's going on in the world, but there is so much that we've got to be grateful for, and it's to be grateful for those things. And don't get me wrong, there are times I wish I didn't have kids. Like, oh my God, I'd have had such an easier life. But I think it's where we're going today. It's the world we're living in. When I look at what's happened in America and what I've known friends to be going through over there with that awful administration that had been, I just count my lucky stars at how grateful, but how fragile we all are.
Yeah.
And at any time, you know, your freedom is so important. But for me, as a gay man, I'm just so proud to be where we are today. I'm thankful for those that went through so much hell for me to be enjoying what I've got. So the life lesson for me is to always be grateful. Thank you.
Thank you, James. I mean, that is definitely, I think, a profound statement for us all to sort of really absorb, is that, you know, we have come so far, but there is still so much that can be done.
So much. Yeah.
In all different countries around the world. So, you know, for everyone who's listening who now needs to go and follow James, jump on Instagram. His handle on Instagram is Dads of London, and he's also launched Adoption Chatter on Instagram, and that's for people wanting to obviously talk about adoption and have that support from James and his experiences he's been through. So please listeners, go follow James. He's an amazing human being. He has a wonderful family, and James, we must make a date to be on an Antiguan beach again.
Yes, definitely. Take care, Lucy. Lovely to talk to you.
Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.